You got off the hook because you're behind the camera. I have to.
It's too bad I have to film. Otherwise I would have definitely helped you. Of course.
All right, let's bring this out here, just so we could see it and then maybe work on it. So this is your ZZ plant, and it's been through a lot. First it was Tara's ZZ plant, and then we split it up because it needed splitting up.
And they normally bloom when they're very stressed, because they'll bloom a lot because they want to reproduce and make sure that the species survives. But then you must remember what I consider a massive amount of light.
It's different from indoors and outdoors.
When you're outdoors in a Miombo woodland, is very different to the kind of light that you're getting here.
Yeah.
So probably,
I'm gonna move this out of the way so
you probably find that it was getting not enough light.
Yeah.
But I think the issue of its stress, if you look at the color of the leaves and the new growth, they're a bit pale.
Yeah.
So I think the big problem is it just wasn't enough soil to keep it going.
Yeah.
And then I gave it to you for your new apartment.
I don't know what.
So it's
that
probably
means.
the same thing. It's the scale, and it's probably sucking out some of the juices. But you know, I shared with you to kind of use a wet paper towel and maybe some soap and just wash it off. Because sometimes when they're really young, they're very clear. It's hard to see them. So
Yeah, they go from like being transparent to being a little brown.
Yeah. And it had some scale on it, and it still has some scale on it, I see.
Yeah, gotten a lot of new growth.
A lot of new growth, and it's like more compact, because I actually think we cut this off because it was getting really yellow. We cut this off and it kind of put out all these new leaves. And I think it has a better growth structure now.
Oh yeah, now it's probably, and how many years ago was that? 2 years ago?
Oh my God, maybe 2.
It takes a good time for it to really get a good new piece of growth.
Yeah.
And this is under a lot of stress too from this scale plant.
Well, I don't think there's any scale on these branches, which is quite nice, you know. So I think, you know, we've been kind of putting this off for a long while. And I think the best time to have, like, you know, douse this with some horticultural oil or something like that would have been in the winter or the spring, before they're like little crawlers, which are the little babies kind of come out. But look, you could see some here on the stem. This little guy is still here. Like, this never really grew. You could just scrape them off. I think scale is some of the hardest stuff to deal with, because it says that like lacewings will like eat this kind of scale, but they don't prefer it. They like the kind of squishy scale, or like the thrips or anything like that much better. So I think what we'll probably end up doing, what we'll end up doing is we'll get some like this neem oil. Sacred Elements gave me this neem oil that we'll try, and we've never tried it before, and then we'll just dilute it with some water, and we'll, you know, kind of get this looking really good, and then maybe we'll give it a really good water, because this looks kind of dry right now. So let's do that. So I have this little neem oil, and then I have this gallon jug. So I think I'm just roughly, I think this is concentrated. So I'm just gonna do like roughly, you know, 2 teaspoons in here. I wouldn't put like concentrated neem or anything on here, because it could actually damage the leaves, especially if it's in sun. We're kind of in the last hours of the day, so the sun isn't really that hot, and we're gonna pull it right back in the house. So I'm just gonna put water in this, and I'll bring it back out. Scale is some of the most difficult stuff to deal with, because you have to really scrape it off. I've asked a lot of botanic gardens, when they have scale, what do they do?
There's still one in the middle.
Yeah, I think.
It's unbelievable.
I know. I asked a lot of botanic gardens, like, what do they do to deal with scale? And then they usually do a systemic pesticide after a while, if they can. Systemic pesticide means that they usually put a drench in the soil. It goes through the roots, and it goes throughout the system of the plant. That's where like.
So say it was neem oil, it would be taken up by the roots and then come out of the leaves.
Yeah, but usually they use something like a pyrethrin, which is made out of, I think, like, it's actually synthesized from chrysanthemums. And if you think about, a lot of plants do have,
I don't know what that means. difference?
So chrysanthemum is a type of flower, and pyrethrin is like the chemical and the chemistry that's in the plant. And a lot of plants will put out their natural chemicals because they can't move. And so that's their natural chemicals as a defense against, you know, scale or any type of sucking insect, for instance. And, you know, the ZZ plant, I don't know if the scale, you know, native to their habitat.
It can fight it off on its own.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to.
It doesn't seem effective much because like
No.
these like before the scale can really get to it, it already puts out new growth, like this one.
Yeah.
And then it's not a big deal.
Which is why I think it's good to stay on top of it. And honestly, like we should have been doing this in winter and spring. And I think just like with the move here and everything, you find other work to do, and then this becomes like back burner, which is probably part of the reason why we haven't brought a lot of like houseplants here.
It's probably the reason why I have this houseplant, because it's very forgiving
Yes,
to my neglect.
exactly.
So why is it better to do this in the spring?
In the spring and winter, it's because like you could get a hold on them. It's like right before their crawler stage. So if you could get the crawler stage is like the stage where, because these guys will just literally, the mature ones will plant themselves in a specific place and not move. But their babies will actually crawl to a specific place and then plant themselves and then not move. And you kind of want to get it where you get all the mature ones off so that you hit them before they go into their crawler stage. But it's hard to know how plants react in a home because they might be producing babies all the time, and we're not.
Because you don't really have the spring, you don't really have the seasons indoors.
Yeah, so. As much. So it's like, you know, plants do know if it's like winter or spring or summer indoors because you'll see that they'll not grow as much. But you know, we're not monitoring that enough to really know that to be true. But I think if you stay on top of it and you develop a routine with it, it becomes easier to manage. And as you could see, scale will diminish the health of it over time, but it's not like super damaging right away. And this plant, as you said, just kind of keeps on ticking. It keeps on growing and putting out new growth, so that's always good. And the new growth doesn't have the scale on it, so that's why you kind of want to stay on top of it. Right. I know I'm going through like lots of paper towels, but I'm going to use a different paper towel for every stem, because just in the event that I rub one of these guys onto another stem, I don't want to have to track it in. And, you know, I'll go through this once, but like you said, you could probably see more that I didn't hit.
There's more over here.
Okay.
Or are there?
Yeah, that's the other thing about scale. They're hard to see because they kind of look like nodules, especially if it was a wooden stem. It makes it even harder to see. But they do get a little sticky on the leaves, right? And we had a cardboard box underneath this at first.
Yeah, because I wanted to protect the floor here.
Yeah.
Because in my old apartment, it got really sticky stuff on the floor. It was just dripping off the leaves. But those were mainly the very old stems.
Yeah, that we cut off already. And that was good that we cut those off.
Was that from the wound?
I think that's actually from the scale, and it just like is probably, you know, leaving some frass behind, which is like insect poop, and it's all that good juice coming from the plant. But ZZ plants are pretty tough. Like, you know, this is so many years old. I think Tara said this was 15 years old. We've had it for a couple years now, right?
For 15 years.
Yeah.
I've probably had this for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So it's a pretty sturdy plant, and I think it's still one of my top choices of a great beginner plant. And you could see even with scale, even though it requires a little bit of maintenance, it still looks like really good. I mean, I have scale on my hands. It's amazing how much they stick. Look, I don't know if you could see that. See this? They're like literally stuck to my hands. I don't think they're alive, but so I'm just using this diluted neem that I got from Sacred Elements, but if you don't have that, you could use a horticultural oil. If you're like, don't have the horticultural oil, you can make your own, like with like maybe some type of eco-friendly soap. Dr. Bronner's is always a good one that we like to use in various different ways. And then we just dilute it. You could dilute it like at 1/5 the rate. And there are certain plants where if you have like those succulent plants, like this ZZ plant has a nice leaf and it's a shiny leaf. So when you actually rub it, it looks shinier and looks better. So I'm getting the dust off in the process of doing this as well, which is great. It makes the plant look healthier and shinier. But if you have like some succulent leaves that have more of like a blue hue, if you rub the leaf with like water or like a neem oil or a soap oil, that's going to take off all that powdery stuff on the leaf and make it look a little weird and could actually damage the leaf. So it's a little more challenging with different plants. So you really have to kind of test it on a leaf and see if it works well before you actually do too much.
But waxy leaves are gonna be fine.
This type of leaf with like the waxy sheen, that's why I'm surprised like this scale is even attacking it, because the waxy sheen is actually a nice protection against something like scale. I think maybe that's part of the reason why this ZZ plant could pull through so easily, is like this nice waxy cuticle is good. And another way that you could be preventative, once we have scale, you kind of have it, but a good preventative way is just making sure that the plant is not near anything else that has scale, for instance, that you're giving it good fertilizer when it needs it, although ZZ plants are not that demanding when it comes to fertilizer. And that you're like, taking care of it. It's not getting sun scorched or anything like that. How are these leaves looking?
I see a lot of them on this.
On this one, yeah.
This is quite an older stem, so
yeah.
care.
It's nice to see that the newer stems really don't have it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one's got a lot.
This one's got a lot. Look at this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And you have to kind of get on the underside of the leaves too. These older leaves down below definitely have a lot of it. And you really have to scrape,
Yeah, you gotta use your nails.
Yeah. And you could imagine that if you have a more sensitive leaf than this, you could really, damage the leaves a bit. But this ZZ plant could take it. I usually opt for more horticultural oils, only because the neem could be a little strong, this neem smell.
What's the horticultural oil?
It's more petroleum based, which is unfortunate. So that's why if you could make your own with like a soap,
It seems
that
like
should be
soap
fine.
Seems to be you don't really need the neem itself, because even rubbing them off is gonna get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You
It's
don't
more.
really need the neem.
It's more about, the neem and the horticultural oil, what it does is that if you don't rub them off, at least that oil gets into their body.
Oh, okay, so it kills them on contact.
Yeah, they can't breathe. It's kind of like what we were doing with the gypsy mops, and we were spraying them, right? And you get soap on their bodies and it gets into their spiracles. But like these are more hard scales, so if you don't like rip them up, then they could probably survive this, which is why I think they're some of the more difficult ones to deal with versus like mealybugs or something like that, which are soft bodied and you could dab them with a Q-tip or whatever and get them off. This is gonna feel so good after we're done with this. Okay, let's give this a good water and we'll let it sit out here for a while.
Yeah, would it be good to just leave it outside for a bit too?
As
Will that
long
reduce
as-
the pests?
I love doing that as long as you do it in like kind of a shaded area, because the sun gets really hot here, and I found that if I bring things out into like really full sun, it can scorch the leaves, even if the plant is reportedly, can take high light. And that happened with the snake plant, right? Because it was
got burned.
it was in your apartment with like east facing, like below the window. Then we put it right directly in the southern light and it just got burned. So you just have to be mindful of that. But I think this is looking good so far. And yeah, I think we could leave it out and then we could bring it in tonight. Got to make sure that it doesn't get too cold, but since we're in the summer, this is going to be fine. But we do get some pretty strong light, so we just have to I would shuttle this in before the evening hours. But I like to bring plants out if like they have like, you know, mealybugs or aphids or thrips or anything along those lines. If you have a place to bring them outside that's sheltered and that's shaded, then you might get beneficial insects that naturally live outside that take care of all of that before you bring it inside. So I think that's a really good solution, and I'm glad you mentioned it. But this is your ZZ. Hopefully it'll live for another 15 years plus.
Thanks for fixing it up.
Yeah, a little care and a little routine, then we'll hopefully get it back to normal. My friends and I have started a communal homestead in the Finger Lakes region of New York, and we're documenting our journey on our new channel, Flock Finger Lakes. We'll also be reinvesting 10% of our Google AdSense revenue from that channel back into the Finger Lakes community as well, which will be matched by our partners at Espoma Organic. So if you have a chance, check out the new channel to see what we're up to. In the meantime, if you're looking to expand your repertoire of plant education, then you can check out our full suite of online courses, including Houseplant Basics, the 125 Houseplant Care Spreadsheet, Troubleshoot Your Houseplants, and the Houseplant Masterclass. More information on all those courses can be found on homesteadbrooklyn.com.